They fed him to the pigs. Adrian told the police and CPS caseworkers that he was being severely abused by his father and his stepmother, yet no one stepped in to help him, and now he's gone. Big trigger warning, and I included pictures in this video. So let's go back to November 25th, 2015, Kansas City. A 911 call was placed by his stepmother, Heather Jones. She reported to the police that her husband, Michael, was trying to unalive her, and he had already fired several rounds throughout the home. So the police arrived at their home, and what they find is a disgusting nightmare. There's bullet holes all throughout the walls and floors. Rat poison was all over the floor, and there were dead mice everywhere. They found syringes, trash, clothes, adult entertainment, just strung all throughout the house. But what was even worse, there were 6 children living in this chaos. Thank goodness those 6 children were finally taken and placed in protective custody. They took Heather down to the police station, but before she left, she gave her cell phone to her landlord, Jennifer. She asked Jennifer to save some of her pictures to her Apple account so she could see them later. When Heather gets to the police station, she begins to tell one hell of a story. She claims Michael has unalived his 7-year-old son, fed his remains to the pigs, and buried what was left beside the pig pen. She told police that Michael abused, tortured, and starved Adrian on a daily basis. When they asked Heather why she didn't help Adrian, she claimed she was a victim of domestic violence and that Michael would beat her up every time she tried to help Adrian. She even claimed that Michael had knocked out her 2 front teeth once when she tried to feed Adrian. But police would later find out everything that came out of this woman's mouth was a lie, including how she lost her 2 front teeth. Police tracked down her dentist, and her dentist had surgically removed them because of medical issues. So they find Michael and they bring him in as well. So of course they turn on each other and they both deny abusing Adrian. But it turns out their house was full of surveillance cameras and they had documented all of the abuse. Well, remember, I told you Heather gave her cell phone to her landlady Jennifer to save some pictures, right? So when Jennifer got the phone, she began scrolling through Heather's pictures, and what she found was disturbing. There were so many pictures of Adrian with ironing boards strapped to his body, along with other things, forced him to carry it around all day and night. Jennifer became so sick, she took the phone down to the police station and immediately handed it over. And that was when police found even more evidence, text messages between Heather and Michael about how they enjoyed abusing Adrian. Heather referred to him as the boy, instead of using his given name, in an attempt to dehumanize him. Now, Heather and Michael shared 7 children, 1 boy and 6 girls, but they didn't treat the 6 girls the way they treated Adrian. Adrian was routinely targeted by Heather and Michael and beaten until he bled. One night, Heather hit him in the face with a broom repeatedly. She messed his face up pretty badly and he began bleeding, so she pulled her camera out and snapped some pictures. Adrian was often forced to stand in freezing stagnant water outside for long periods of time, sometimes for the entire night, alone, tired, and afraid. There was a video where Adrian was shackled outside in the winter, completely helpless, shivering as he stood outside wearing only his pajamas in the video. There's even video of Adrian desperately trying to drink from a cup, but he can't because his hands are handcuffed behind his back. There were images found of Adrian strapped to an ironing board with a blindfold placed over his eyes. He was also strapped in what is known as stress positions for hours on end. A stress position means to put a person's body in such a way that a great amount of weight is placed on just 1 or 2 muscles, causing a great deal of pain and uncomfort. Adrian's little ankles were bent out of shape from constantly standing and carrying so much weight. Adrian's little ankles and legs became so swollen from standing for hours on end. There are numerous images of Adrian standing in the shower showing him getting thinner and thinner until his tiny frame was almost skeletal. I easily found this image on Google. Michael and Heather wanted to document how his body deteriorated over time from the constant attacks. They set an alarm system on the refrigerator and food cupboard so if Adrian ever tried to get any food, the couple would be notified. And God help him if that alarm went off, whether it was his fault or not. He was always punished for trying to eat. He was starving. When Adrian was allowed to eat, they would only allow him to eat out of a maggot-infested bowl outside with his hands tied behind his back. The pair would often shove a bar of soap into Adrian's mouth as far as they could, knowing he wouldn't be able to get it out because his hands were behind his back. They would often tease Adrian with food. The couple would go get fast food or make dinner, and they would place it in front of him knowing he couldn't get to it because his hands were bound. The couple had ripped out one of their showers and turned it into a makeshift prison cell made from plywood. There's a photo of Heather posing in front of it as Adrian was locked inside. And that was where Adrian was kept a majority of the time during his short life. Here's another image from their surveillance camera. Pictures in Heather's iCloud account showed close-ups of Adrian's lips and teeth where he had tried to chew his way out of that wooden cell. His little lips, cheeks, and gums were bruised, swollen, and cut where he was doing his best to get out of there. More photos found showed Adrian had taser marks on his skin. One of Adrian's siblings said that they heard him screaming through a vent, saying that he was going to be unalived. Then they heard Heather say, "Shut up and suck it up." I could literally go on all night about the abuse he suffered at the hands of the people who were supposed to take care of him and love him. So finally, one day, after suffering all this abuse, Adrian's little body just couldn't take it anymore, and he was gone. Now, after Adrian died, they went and bought pigs. They starved those pigs and fed his remains to those pigs. And then what was left, they buried next to the pig pen. When his grandma and other relatives found out what happened and seen pictures of him, they could not believe that was him. It looked nothing like him. By the end of his life, he was unrecognizable. His distant family said they had no idea this was being done to him. But there were people who did know what was going on with him, because Adrian told them to their face what was happening to him, and they chose not to help him. And CPS told Michael, "We'll let you keep Adrian as long as you keep Heather out of the home." Michael would lie and claim that she didn't stay with him. CPS was treating this like Heather was the only abuser, when both of them were abusing him, and he told them that. A CPS worker and a police officer were both speaking with Adrian. Adrian confided in them and told them that his father had been kicking him. This is a quote from Adrian. Adrian said, "My daddy keeps hitting me in the head and punches me in the stomach. My mom keeps pulling on my ears and it really hurts. Mommy and daddy lock me in my room by myself and they don't feed me." The caseworker claimed they inspected this, but they couldn't find any injuries on Adrian's body. I have a feeling they never looked. Now, the social workers were there because they had received so many calls with concern for Adrian's well-being. One caller reported that his mom beats the living daylights out of him for no reason. Another report stated they had witnessed Adrian digging through the trash looking for food. So CPS was coming out once in a while to talk with the family. During another visit, Adrian told the caseworker that he was forced to sleep outside in the freezing cold, that he was denied food. He had to get food out of the trash can. He also said that Michael and Heather hit him a lot and locked him up in the closet at night. But CPS still refused to believe his statements. When a child tells you something over and over and over, you need to believe it. They took him out of school to silence him, and no one noticed. So as Adrian's statements became more serious, the couple told CPS they no longer needed their services because they were moving. And that was the caseworker's last opportunity to take this child and save him, and she didn't. So now, after police had all this evidence, Michael and Heather were both charged with murder. They both pled guilty to first-degree murder, probably in an attempt to get a lighter sentence, but they both got life in prison without the possibility of parole. Adrian was failed by everyone around him, but most of all, by the system. People were calling in the reports. They were doing their part. You know how they tell us, if you see something, say something? Well, people seen it and they said something, but nothing was done. And what's worse is Adrian was missing for months and no one even noticed. No one reported him missing. I just don't understand that. I want to leave off with who Adrian is. Adrian was described as a little boy full of life who talked nonstop about his love for football and how one day he hoped to become a football player himself. He loved playing outside and with his sisters, and he liked cartoons. And what's really sad is Adrian loved his daddy and Heather so much. Even after they became so abusive, he vied for their attention, told them he loved them. He was doing anything he could to be a part of the family and to be treated the same way his sisters were being treated. And that's how children are. No matter what you do to them, they are so forgiving. Because you're their parent. They look up to you. I want the world to remember Adrian as the fun, sweet, football-loving little boy he was. And I hope those two never get out of prison.